Aiden Claiborne.
And I'm Gintari Pishikaita.
And we are your 2022-2023 captains.
Thank you, and welcome to the LNHS Speech Team's 2023 Wordplay Showcase.
We are excited to show you all what we have been working on this whole season. If you enjoy what you see here tonight, we invite you to our national showcase in May. This will highlight our speakers that will be going and competing in national tournaments in May and June. We hope to see you there.
This year, our team consisted of 60 team members who participate in 15 different categories, ranging from informing the audience on a topic to acting out all the characters in a humorous piece. Today, we will begin our showcase with our senior STEM speaker, Devin Defoe, who will be drawing in a question to perform later tonight. Devin competes in international extemporaneous.
Extemporaneous speaking is a unique category where a speaker draws a question, has a 30-minute prep period, and delivers a 7-minute speech in round. The category is split based on domestic and international questions relating to current events. Devin will draw 3 possible questions, and you, the audience, will choose the one that he should answer. 3 questions will appear on the screen, and we will each read one. Then I will ask for an applause for each question, and whichever gets the loudest applause is the one that Devin will speak on. Question 1. How much longer will Vladimir Putin be able to remain Russia's president?
Question 2. Is there any viable path forward for Iran's protest movement?
And question 3. Was Brexit a British blunder?
All right. Who would like to hear Devin speak on question 1? All right, how about question 2? And finally, question 3.
I think we know which one it is.
It's definitely question 3.
Tea and crumpets it is. All right, Devin's going to go over to his little corner and start researching. All right, and now we'd like to welcome our first featured speaker in original oratory, Amna Bashir.
The first day of middle school for everyone is always filled with nerves, jitters, and excitement. It's basically 3 years of trying to not stick out from the crowd. So, joining a team sport like volleyball seemed like the perfect opportunity to join a group and blend in. And yet, from the first practice onward, I stuck out like a sore thumb. While all of my teammates wore their tiny volleyball spandex shorts, I was in baggy t-shirts and leggings. As much as I wanted to fit in, my faith requires me to dress modestly, no matter the occasion. So, I stuck to leggings. Initially, I was mortified seeing far more of my teammates than I wanted. But I soon realized that they were just as uncomfortable in shorts that constantly hiked up and attracted far too much attention from boys and middle-aged men in the stands. Although my coaches were lenient about my clothing choices, I never felt like I was truly a part of the team because I didn't have the short shorts, tight tees, or Grinch Reapers. So, here I am in speech and debate. I miss my old teammates and even more volleyball. But what I don't miss was the feeling that I wasn't competing in athletics, but rather performing for audiences. Now, when I watch gymnastics, swimming, or volleyball, I can't help but notice that men and women wear different uniforms in the same sports. They wear them because their governing bodies have strict rules. However, we know that those rules are not put in place to prevent competitive advantage, because if that were true, they would have applied them to all uniforms uniformly. They're there because uniforms are for show, because we as a society are conditioned to view women's athleticism as performances, rather than achievements. This minimizes them and their accomplishments. And that is my concern. No matter how we may feel about sports personally, it is critical that we be conscious advocates for equity in all parts of our society. So today, Let's serve our way into the causes of why women's sports are undermined. Then, dive into the effects that these views have on our society. And finally, end the set with a few ways we can uplift women's athletics. Volleyball is not the only sport where women may feel uncomfortable in their uniforms. As NPR explains in July of 2021, the Norwegians' national handball team replaced their bikini bottoms with shorts. And they were fined 1,500 euros and threatened with disqualification for ruining the ideal presentation of the sport. Now, you might be thinking that maybe the fabric from clothes creates drag and hinders performance. I mean, there's certainly a lot of history with drag and performance. But not like that. We know this because men are able to perform just as well when being covered up. Look at gymnastics, for example. Male gymnasts wear uniforms that completely cover their entire legs, while women's leotards expose everything. As NPR explains in another article in May of 2021, 3 German gymnasts wore full-body leotards to protest the sexualization of the sport, and to show that any gymnast can compete successfully in any uniform they feel the most comfortable in. This focus on appearance as critical to the viability of women's sports extends to their top athletes as well, especially Black women. As Vox explains in August of 2022, Serena Williams, arguably the greatest professional tennis player, caused a racket when she picked up her racket. She was subject to constant criticism and negative comments from print and television commentators. She was often described as fat and lazy, and some even accused her of lying about her weight. And when she designed competition wear that better fit her body after the birth of her child, she was ridiculed and threatened with sanctions for choosing to violate the sanctity of the sport. She stayed true to herself, and when she announced her retirement prior to this fall's US Open, record-breaking audiences tuned in to watch the world's best athlete compete one more time, because she was simply the best regardless of what others said about her clothes or appearance. At the root of it all, people will watch sports based on ability, regardless of gender. If you watch sports analysis shows like ESPN SportsCenter or even just a local nightly news channel, 95% of the coverage is typically focused on men's sports. The NFL season is over, but that is not stopping sports networks from constant focus on next season, rather than sports which are in season. A study done by the University of Southern California and Purdue explains that despite more live women's sports coverage on television, recap analysis shows haven't kept up. So casual fans are fed a continuous stream of just male accomplishments in athletics. They conclude that this disparity in coverage continues to legitimize greater material rewards for male athletes, while shoring up a stubbornly persistent ideology of male superiority. I'm sure that's simple and easy to follow, but the consequences are anything but for women. When we don't see women in public spaces like business, politics, or in this case, athletics, we're telling women and girls that these spaces aren't for them. Whether it is for trophies or for personal fitness, it is important that we ensure they feel comfortable in these spaces. Many want to exercise and live a healthy lifestyle. However, they feel as though they are subject to judgment and ridicule while they're at the gym. FitRated surveyed 890 women about their experiences. 71% of them reported that they felt uncomfortable, ranging from being stared at for the clothes that they wore to being told that they weren't using equipment properly. They have become disheartened and discouraged from going to the gym. The unwanted attention that we receive underscores the belief that our bodies exist for the enjoyment of others, rather than our pursuit of achievement. While I may not play high school volleyball anymore, I still cheered for our team at every opportunity this season. And my sports passion doesn't end there. I have been obsessed with basketball for years, and I can recite every stat for my favorite team, the Milwaukee Bucks, until I am green and black in the face. But I soon realized that I had fallen into the same patterns that ESPN expected of, or perhaps even chose for its viewers. I was an NBA fan because that was the only league I knew and sought out. By ignoring the WNBA and other women's sports leagues, I was feeding the data to league executives who use that to justify the disparities in airtime, salaries, and opportunities. I unintentionally became part of the system that gives women minimal airtime and ignores their achievements. when we don't air women's sports on television. We're not just saying that their sports don't matter and that they'll never be able to compete with men. We're also telling women and girls at home that they should look for a place elsewhere to participate, to belong, to exist. Society has definitely evolved these past few years because of the pandemic. With the rise of work-from-home arrangements, we have become a lot more casual with our clothing standards. And as a result, comfortable athletic wear has become a $100 billion industry. With the rise of brands like Lululemon and Athleta, women have been provided with a more comfortable but stylish look that they can wear to a casual hangout, an errands run, or of course the gym. These clothes provide women with the confidence that they need to go to gyms and do the workouts that they once avoided, like weightlifting. And it is no surprise that they do this. As Retail Drive explained in September of 2019, Athleta's staff is 96% women, so every element of their design has women at the center of their focus. If you're someone who has shied away from gyms and weightlifting because these have been traditionally meathead spaces, well, this first solution is for you. Find the clothes that give you the confidence to reclaim those spaces. Sure, I might not look like a meathead, but I turn heads at my gym and I deadlift 405 pounds. And you can too. Comfortable clothing can give you the confidence to break personal records in the gym, competitive records in sports, and gendered expectations imposed upon us by the MSHSL, NCAA, and all of those other governing bodies. The second solution is for everyone. Watch whatever women's sports are available to you. When viewership increases, the networks and advertising execs will notice and adjust their coverage. What's long been overlooked in sports analysis is that they play at the same pace and skill level as their male counterparts, and in some cases, are ahead of the curve. The NBA now utilizes a fast-paced, full-court style of long-range shooting, but the WNBA was doing that for years before Steph Curry and others allegedly revolutionized the game. Take the time to appreciate these incredible athletes. As much as I miss the sport of volleyball, I'm actually glad things didn't work out. I traded in my volleyball uniform for a much better one. In it, I feel confident and comfortable, and I could never give that up. So whether they're competing in athletics or in speech and debate, all of us should celebrate women and their accomplishments.
The best rumor about what's hiding under my headscarf was that it concealed sudden onset baldness, which makes the only real difference between me and Jeff Bezos about $124 billion, give or take some loose change. But the real reason I wear a hijab is as a mark of faith, much like a Christian might wear a cross, or a Jewish person a sarong.
Even with all of the mental health misinformation that's out there, I still disagree with my parents. No one should be completely banned from social media, even with all of the claims. After all, if they really wanted me not to be exposed to mature content, then maybe they shouldn't be letting me go to a public high school.
If we want to make video game voice chat a safe place for all, we must return it back to its original purpose, cooperation. Because we can use cooperation to significantly defeat toxicity, such as calling out someone else's rude comment and truly taking accountability for the way we treat others online.
Now, while I loved the show, in watching I noticed one character. Bonnie could never seem to catch a break. Her grandmother dies in one of the first episodes. Her first boyfriend cheats on her with a ghost, and she even ends up dying in the series on like 4 separate occasions. Crazy. I know.
Growing up, other students would make fun of me, such as sticking up their pinky finger at me. Like, where did the Chinese middle finger even come from? I'm Chinese, but even I have no idea where it came from. But growing up, I also realized something. I should be proud of who I am, because as Queen Gaga said herself, I was born this way.
What type of car does a wealthy shellfish
Drive. A Lamborghini.
If the free countries had acted together to crush the aggression of the dictators, and if they had acted when that aggression was small, there would not have been a World War II. If history has taught us anything, it is that aggression anywhere in the world is a threat to peace everywhere in the world.
I've experienced gender inequality ever since I was a little kid. And this past year, I was treated poorly, like I didn't matter as much as the boys did. That's what happened to me when I was playing on a boys hockey team. I'm a child, yet these 40-year-old men thought it was okay to make me feel neglected because I'm a girl. They then went and kicked me off the hockey team because I'm a girl.
It is not something we can view in isolation. Any system that allows us to turn a blind eye to hopelessness and despair, that is not a justice system. That is an injustice system.
The polarization in America has made some people completely block out politicians of the other political party simply because they don't want to listen to their view about the world. Sometimes it's very difficult to hear someone say something very different than what you think, but it's important to listen to everyone's point of view and reasoning behind their thoughts.
Hi, I'm Sam Bihar.
I'm Darnia Iapin.
I'm Cadence Schultz. And I'm Harper Jensen. And we're the members of the 2023 discussion team. We'll be your MCs for the night. Our showcase opened with performances from two of our public address categories, original oratory and great speeches.
Original oratories, like Amna's that you just saw, are persuasive speeches, researched and written entirely by the student on a topic of their choosing. The category of great speeches analyzes a speech that has already been given by an influential figure.
One of the main things that oratory has in common with great speeches is the need to research, to properly deliver the speech. Coincidentally, prior research is also an important aspect of discussion, the category we four are in.
Discussion, or disco for short, is unfortunately not a 70s style dance battle, but it's the only category where a group of people must work together to accomplish a goal. It differs greatly from other speech categories that focus on individuals or pairs giving speeches by themselves. Essentially, think of discussion as a debate, but if it was passive-aggressive instead of just plain aggressive. In disco, the goal is for the group to come to an agreement on an issue that relates back to a larger topic. The topic changes every year, with this year's topic being global environmental issues. In discussion, you have to balance the ability to coherently deliver information with people-oriented skills like politeness and teamwork.
Each discussion round, we are given a task or an issue to solve. This year's tasks have included a wide range of topics, including rising sea levels, deforestation, waste disposal, and pollution. The task is different every single round, and range from straightforward and simple to wordy and filled with problems. Here's an example of a task that may be given at the beginning of a round.
You are the city planners for a coastal community who is being impacted by rising sea levels. You have been directed by your city council to try and develop realistic solutions to protect your community's residents and businesses from these impacts. You understand that there is not uniformity of agreement on causes of these rising levels, but you understand that if nothing is done, the results could be devastating for your community. How you frame your reasons and solutions is at your discretion.
Our next two categories are storytelling and extemporaneous reading. Storytelling is a category where a list of fairy tales or folk tales are chosen ahead of time. Everyone in the category must know the selections by heart. It takes an incredible amount of memorization and acting talent and knowledge of puns. The category is usually done as an individual event, but tonight we will be showcasing two of our storytellers who have merged their two versions of classic tale and will perform together.
Extemporaneous reading is a category that's similar to storytelling, where students prepare multiple pieces and only one is picked for each round. While storytelling uses fairy tales, extemp reading uses prose or poetry pieces. In extemp reading, competitors are required to use a book while they perform, while storytellers are required to give their performance memorized.
Jane unpacked immediately, placed her favorite picture of her mother up on a rung, facing her aunt, as if to breeze or gentle rain. She turned the handles of the wooden windows and pulled them open. Her father said, "Do you want to go with me to check on things in the office?" And she shook her head. "Okay, feel free. Go look around." Jane always felt free, didn't she?
Why am I out here, in the middle of the freaking night, wandering the streets of Santa Monica, looking for homeless people, when I could be lying in bed watching videos of babies eating lemons and soldiers reuniting with their dogs? Because I need 4 more hours of community service this semester, and I need them by tomorrow morning.
Maria found it impossible to believe she would never see him again. Never, never, never. He was not coming back. He was gone. She could not reach him, even if she stretched her arms out for the rest of her days.
Hey kid, you wanna see my spindle? Oh, excuse me? Ah, princess, you've never seen a woman's spindle before. No. What's it for? Touching. It's very enjoyable for someone to touch. Touch? Yes, maybe even prick your finger on it for good luck.
And it was just like that the curse came upon Sleeping Beauty.
This is a nice treat. You won't mind if I fall asleep, right? Great, thanks.
Okay, so now that the wolf is asleep, I'm going to take over the narrator. Because of, well, you'll see.
Okay, so the mama goat came home to find her house in a complete mess, and everything was everywhere, and she couldn't find a single one of her kids.
Stranger danger.
You've heard it.
You said it.
Your mom has drilled it into your head. But it's not just a cutesy phrase.
The sooner you learn to say no to the man in the white van offering you candy, the better.
2 characters in our story learn this lesson the hard way. In Hansel and Gretel, as taken from the Gutenberg Project. Long ago, in a land not here nor there, in a vast forest that seemed to be a dip in the earth, that neighbored mountains that seemed to scrape the sky, there lived a poor woodcutter. Now this woodcutter had 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. This woodcutter could no longer support his family with the lack of income from his job, but the children's stepmother had a plan to relieve them from their suffering.
What will we do? We'll starve soon.
Hush, hush. I know what we can do. We can bring the kitties into a deep part of the forest and then leave them there to die.
Do what?
To live and flourish, of course. And then we'll no longer have to worry about them.
Fine, but you do it.
In the next room, the 2 children were fast asleep, or so their parents thought.
Hansel, did you hear that?
Yeah, but don't worry, I got this under control.
That night, the 2 children slept without a care in the world, and the next morning they awoke to their stepmother's lovely voice. "Get up, you lazy rats!" The old woman shook the 2 children awake and brought them outside. "All righty, children, here are your 2 pieces of bread to eat for dinner, but don't eat them now because that's all you're going to eat." "All righty, let's head out on our little adventure." "Hansel, why do you keep turning around?" "I'm sorry, you're just not very easy to look at." "Imbecile!"
Each time Hansel would turn around, he would drop a piece of bread on the ground. They had finally reached a part of the forest in which Hansel and Gretel had never been before. "Okay, kitty, so your father's around here."
somewhere cutting wood, and then when he's done, he'll pick you up and bring you back home. The stepmother left Hansel and Gretel alone, and they were tired from all the walking they did that day. So they fell asleep, but when they awoke, they had seen that all of the breadcrumbs were gone.
Gretel, all the breadcrumbs are gone.
What do you mean all of the breadcrumbs are gone?
Look.
What the?
While Hansel and Gretel were sleeping, birds had swooped down from the trees and ate all of the breadcrumbs.
Oh, we'll never get home.
Don't worry, home is this way. Oh, maybe it's that way. Okay, so we're gonna get home eventually.
The two children set off in search of their home. They looked high and they looked low. They ran over hills and they waded through creeks. But the more they searched, the further they got into the forest.
Hansel, what's that?
Dinner! In front of the two children was the most magnificent home. The walls were made of gingerbread, the windows made of raw sugar, and all of the edges were coated in candy of every shape and every size. The two children ran up to this home and began eating. But before their tummies were full, an old woman came out the front door.
Who is eating my house?
No one's eating your house, silly.
Won't you come inside and have a real meal?
I'm gonna trust her.
But she's ugly.
You don't have to be pretty to be trustworthy.
Sure, but our stepmom is ugly and she's awful.
I have 2 clean beds for you and a hot meal waiting at the table.
I'm going in.
Hansel and Gretel entered into the house, and once they finished their feast, they were brought into a bedroom by the old woman. There were 2 beds waiting for them. Here will be your home now.
For the first few days, living with the woman was all the children could imagine. But soon her true colors began to emerge. For she was blind as blind could be, but could smell children from miles away. She would lure them into the forest with her sweet-smelling home, then bring them inside and fatten them up. Then she would eat every single last one of them, and fully intended to do the same with Hansel and with Gretel.
Get in the cage, Hansel! Oh, Gretel! I am your brother in a cage! Oh, Hansel, stick out your finger. I want to see if you're getting fat.
But Hansel was smarter than this, and instead of sticking out a finger for the old woman to feel, he would reach down and grab a bone and stick it out for her instead.
You're not getting fat!
I'm bulking actually, and soon all these push-ups I'm gonna be doing are gonna pay off, and I'm gonna be huge.
Fat?
Jacked!
Oh, Gretel, your brother is in there bulking! I don't care if he's fat or jacked. I'm going to eat him now. Go into the oven and see if it's hot enough to make bread. I've always loved the thought of boiling bread.
But I don't know how to get into the oven.
Are you stupid? Let me show you.
With little to know, with little to no effort, Gretel was able to push the old woman into the stove and to her death.
Hansel, I did it.
You got jacked?
No, stupid, I killed the old woman.
You what?
I killed the old woman.
Shut the front door.
The two children were overjoyed by this and began their search for their home. After some searching, they came to the bright white fence and red door of their childhood home.
Daddy!
Hansel, Gretel, come here. Your stepmother is dead, and now we can live out the rest of our lives happy.
Hansel and Gretel were overjoyed by this, and and learned that they would be able to stay the rest of their life in their happy little home without a care in the world.
The old woman was dead, and also the stepmother had passed.
And from this we learn that strangers are indeed dangers.
Next up is drama and prose. These two categories are fairly similar to one another. Both are serious in nature, telling stories of a great challenge from a character's point of view.
Drama pieces must be taken from published plays, while prose pieces are taken from novels and short stories.
When I was 7, I threw my doll on the fire. I watched her face melt. I watched her hands liquefy. I watched inky smoke lift from her eyes. Stare into a fire for more than a minute, and it's clear that we humans are ridiculous for thinking we're solid.
I was looking forward to a break, you know. Room to breathe, let him take care of me for a change. But there I was, hearing this, a felon. I felt like my back was against the wall, like I had no other choice. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep working like this.
My procedure had scarred me. It was something I took into every meeting I had. Compassion and respect was something I had been denied, but one I vowed never to deny any woman who became my patient. It's been my privilege and honor to hear these women's stories and many others who desperately need to be told. Always, though, above everything, it was the patients who kept me going.
Make sure you smile a lot, with teeth. When you do your non-teeth smile, it looks kinda forlorn. Oh, and don't forget to look interested in whatever he says, really engaged. Ned, are you listening? You seem like you spaced out. Oh, and one of us should try to bring up my cancer, too. Really get them on our side. I have a fever of 103.
Have you ever seen Ludwig Gentman's paintings? Of course you haven't. Look at you. You probably never even left the country. Well, if you don't know Gentman, he's a German impressionist. There's a real Van Gogh essence to his work. A simpler mind, in fact. Might assume that what you were seeing was a Van Gogh, but it's not.
On that day, I started writing this diary. And the story is not over, because to this day, there are people dying in Ukraine. So, I'm going to keep writing. I'm writing so I'll remember how my childhood was destroyed by war, so that the world won't forget.
The night my mother had died, I slept in a chair by her bed. I took her hand in mine, and I began to breathe in tandem with her. It felt as if whole minutes went by as I waited for her to exhale, holding her fingers. But when I looked at her, there was nothing over there, nothing at all.
I recognize people by silhouette and motion. At orientation, his head bobbed above a sea of freshmen, and I had been attracted to his spiky hair. Oh, God, I was totally staring across the restaurant. Probably because I could see clear now. And, well, I'm just happy I didn't drool. His face was all sharp angles and smooth skin, and he was just that kind of lean, muscular build. You know, nerd, hot, exactly my kind of poison.
Our next category is extemporaneous speaking. In this category, students must keep up with social and political topics ranging from domestic to international issues.
Instead of having one prepared speech, each speaker must prepare a new speech every round. Speakers have 30 minutes of preparation time, and they try to get their speech as close to 7 minutes as possible without going over.
I never thought I would walk away from something I loved so much. This was said by 42-year-old Amy Maroon when referencing her decision to quit her job as a teacher after over 2 decades. But unfortunately, cases like these aren't insular.
as a report by NPR just 2 days ago suggests, that 52% of educators in the past 2 years have seriously considered turning away from their jobs. And it's important that we ask why.
A city council meeting in Nebraska discussed the topic of boneless chicken wings and how they're not actual chicken wings. In that meeting, they also claimed that American citizens have been living in a lie for too long. Someone else that's been living in a lie is New York's Representative George Santos, after he made headlines for faking his resume.
What's the difference between a politician and a snail? One is slimy, a pest, and leaves a trail everywhere, and the other is a snail. And although there are many slimy pests in our 118th Congress, a particular congressman, New York's 3rd District Representative George Santos, seems to stand out, and for the wrong reasons. With Santos known for his consistency in lying, Americans are wondering whether the congressional elections in itself is flawed, and how this could impact our next term.
My favorite artist is Taylor Swift, but like myself, millions of people around the world also enjoy her music. But like her music, it's not the only thing permeating these people's lives. It's also the consequences of her actions. The Washington Post, on August 1st of last year, notes that Taylor Swift actually lies in the top 1% of all carbon gas emitters, producing more carbon gas than your average African nation annually.
Over the course of about 80 years of our human lifetimes, it's only natural that we're going to eventually make some decisions that we'll come to regret. I know you and I definitely will. And one of the world leaders that is notoriously right now in this same position is Elon Musk, who after taking out a large stake of his personal fortune to buy Twitter, is not only stuck with a desk job that he probably hates. I mean, the guy launches rockets into space for fun. You think he wants to work a Twitter desk job? But he's also stuck, according to Insider, on November 14th of 2022, with a company that's losing $4 million a day. And those are statistics from Musk's own mouth. So if he's admitting defeat, you know it's really bad. But it's not just Elon Musk who's a world leader, who's probably regretting his past decisions today. It's also likely Boris Johnson, probably wishing to revisit the Brexit decision. As Boris Johnson rose up the ranks of the United Kingdom's Conservative Party, he largely ran for Prime Minister on the idea of Brexit, meaning that the United Kingdom would leave the EU. And in theory, this would create some favorable outcomes for the United Kingdom. For starters, the United Kingdom would have tighter control over its domestic industries, and it'd be able to raise tariffs as it pleased. And it'd also be able to have a stiffer border control policy. So in theory, this looked really good. And in early 2020, the Brexit decision passed with a referendum on January 30th of 2022. But about 3 years later, we have the benefit of hindsight, and the results have been decidedly mixed. So considering that according to The Independent on February 2nd of 2023, that 2/3 of Britons want another referendum to revisit this decision, it's critical that we ask today's essential question. Was Brexit a British blunder? And it's clear that in fact it was a blunder, and we can see why for 3 key reasons. First, because of British domestic issues brought on by Brexit. Second, because of a loss of British international respect. And third, we can see this through Britain's current tumultuous political climate. The first reason that we can see that Brexit indeed was a British blunder is because of domestic issues brought on in the United Kingdom by Brexit. One of the best examples that we have of domestic issues being brought on to the United Kingdom, specifically as a result of the Brexit decision, is from an article from the BBC on February 2nd of 2023, outlining some Welsh university jobs that are now suddenly at risk. The article follows the narrative of Dr. Sarah Jane Potts, a 29-year-old researcher that was working in a university project in Wales. And this project was so successful that it won a Queen's Anniversary Prize for Innovation, one of the highest honors that a project like this could get from the United Kingdom. But unfortunately, despite this project being funded by about $300 million of funding from 2016 to 2020 by the EU, after Britain pulled out of the EU, the UK has not been able to put this funding back into place. And according to the article, jobs like Sarah Jane Potts's are at risk now. And about 1,000 of these university jobs are at dire risk if they don't receive urgent funding. But it's not just in these international university jobs that we can see Britain's domestic problems now. We can also see it in the fact that it's having trouble controlling its domestic industries and its social services. In fact, according to Reuters on March 3rd, 2023, the National Health Service, a socialized healthcare program in the UK, just saw its largest strike in its entire program history. And this is largely because the UK has not been able to find funding to adequately pay workers after Brexit. And so considering that university jobs staged in the UK are starting to crumble, as well as some of Britain's domestic initiatives like the NHS, Brexit, which was poised as something that was supposed to bring more control to Britain and its domestic initiatives, is suddenly starting to look like it backfired. The second reason that we can see that Brexit was indeed a British blunder is when we consider the loss of international respect that Britain got from its Brexit decision. For starters, let's look at the Group of Seven, or the G7. The G7 is a group of 7 of the world's most robust economies, commonly looked at by economists to measure how the world economy as a whole is doing. It includes countries like the United States, Japan, and the United Kingdom. And unfortunately for the UK, according to The Guardian on January 30th of 2023, the UK is the only G7 economy projected to shrink in the coming year. That's like having an NBA All-Star team and putting me at starting power forward. It's just not going to work, and it looks pretty embarrassing as a whole. But it's not just on this economic projection that we can see internationally that Britain has lost respect. It's also in trade dealings. Naturally, trade between the UK and the EU declined after the Brexit decision. In fact, according to The Guardian on June 30th of 2022, trade between these two entities actually dropped 14% within the first year of Brexit. And this is completely natural. After the UK left the EU, it raised many of its import tariffs, and that meant that if other countries wanted to buy goods from the UK, they would have to pay a higher price. When they were in the EU would have more free trade regulations, and that would mean that goods from the UK to other EU countries would be a lot cheaper. Now that the UK has raised its prices, other countries and consumers in the EU are saying, well, it's not like Britain suddenly makes pencils way better than any other country in the EU. We're going to buy all of our goods from other EU countries because it's cheaper. As we can see from this loss of international respect within the G7 and with trade relations, Brexit has backfired on the UK's international image. The third way that we can consider that Brexit was indeed a British blunder is by observing Britain's tumultuous political climate right now. Many people in Britain are wanting to revisit the Brexit decision, and they're starting to lose trust in their leaders, especially at the very top. In fact, according to NPR on February 2nd of 2023, in the past 6 years, the UK has had 5 different prime ministers. And that's the fastest turnaround in 100 years. A lot of this stems from decisions like Brexit, which have now started to seem like they've backfired in the eyes of many Britons. And many Britons are starting to lose faith in their democracy and their leaders. One of the most notorious examples is Liz Truss's reign, who spent about 49 days as Prime Minister and wasn't even able to beat her Prime Minister term length of the shelf life of a head of lettuce. And that notoriously caused some outrage among many British voters. And it's not just within their recent political turmoil with their turnaround of Prime Minister, it's also Rishi Sunak, who has assumed the Prime Minister position. And unfortunately for him, according to a March 2023 YouGov poll, many people in his country, about 15% more, say that he's doing a bad job as Prime Minister, as opposed to having a good job as Prime Minister. So considering that Britons have had such a hard time trying to pick their leaders recently, the fastest turnaround in a century, and considering that Rishi Sunak is now trying to lead a government and a people who are not trusting of him, it's clear that British political action within Brexit has caused their domestic political state to be thrown into turmoil. So when we revisit today's question, was Brexit a British blunder? The answer is a clear yes for 3 reasons. First, because of British domestic issues. Second, because of a loss of British international respect. And third, because of British political turmoil. So just as Elon Musk is likely regretting his decision to buy Twitter, Boris Johnson may be revisiting his decision to leave with the UK from the EU and trying to figure out whether that was really a good decision.
In July of 2015, my world was shook. A scandal that would change the trajectory of pop culture. And it involved a donut. My favorite music artist had done the unthinkable. She had snuck into a donut shop and licked a donut. I, of course, am referring to Ariana Grande. And after the scandal was caught on video, she definitely worsened her reputation. A reputation that she had to wash herself clean of. And how did she do this? By posting an apology video and blaming the entire thing on her hatred of childhood obesity. Surprisingly, The apology worked, and her fan base is stronger than ever. But it isn't just donut lickers who are doing this. Reputation washing can be defined as when a person or group does something benevolent to distract us from their wrongdoings, and has become more common than ever to elevate one's reputation. This tactic goes by many names: woke washing, reputation laundering, sports washing, greenwashing. Any way you scrub it, it's all the same. By looking at reputation washing through first, the sanitization of self-image. Second, the cleansing of country image, and finally, the bleaching of brand image. We can begin to understand journalist Anand Giridharadas as he writes, that the wealthiest groups can do good things in the millions and do bad things in the billions. Many individuals have attempted to sanitize their self-image, often by doing something good to outweigh the bad. A New Yorker article titled "Harvey Weinstein and the Cloak of Charity" explains that when news of his many sexual assaults hit the media, Harvey Weinstein attempted to cover up his criminal behavior through multiple donations, including $5 million towards a USC scholarship fund for female filmmakers, and towards women in politics, trying to push the narrative that he supports women. Jelani Cobb, Dean of Columbia Journalism School, explains that when an individual recognizes that he has done wrong, he attempts to make good in equal measure, to place a thumb on the scale of karma. The Sackler family also attempted to cover up their reputation after the press had begun to reveal how their control of Purdue Pharma and its distribution of OxyContin had enabled drug addiction and overdose to reach an all-time high. An opinion essay for the New York Times explained how the Sacklers avoided personal responsibility and scrutiny through donations to libraries and art galleries that proudly displayed the family name. Sounds like a prescription to relieve the pain of a bad reputation. But you don't necessarily need to cause a national drug crisis to want to wash your reputation. Although I don't have anything more scandalous than this photo I posted in the 5th grade that I would love to delete from my digital past. According to 2018 Harris poll, 22% of hiring managers have turned down candidates as a result of a negative online reputation. In response, online reputation management companies will scrub your dirt off the internet completely for a mere $10,000, raising the ethical question: does this mean those that can afford to pay this high sum now have more chances at better opportunities, making admissions and hiring decisions even more complex? In addition to individuals taking their reputation to the laundromat, governments also seek ways to cleanse their country's image. A particular way they do this is sports washing, which does not refer to keeping your jerseys or sweaty socks clean, but rather to hosting positively perceived sports events or funding popular sports teams in order to improve a nation's reputation. While the term sports washing is relatively new, the practice is not. For example, the Nazi regime used hosting the 1936 Berlin Olympics as an opportunity to distract the world from its growing anti-Semitism and racism. According to NPR, the Nazis hid overt evidence of hostility during the games. They hid signs banning Jewish people from public places, and minorities came home with stories of warmth and hospitality. Some even saying that in Germany, unlike in the US, they weren't forced to sit in the back of the bus. These acts continue. As USA Today explains in the article "Sports Washing," the nascent term for an age-old strategy, that the Olympics were awarded to China last year, despite it being an oppressive government that has inhumanely put Uyghur Muslims into internment camps, censored its citizens, and threatened Hong Kong and Taiwan numerous times. The article argues that hosting the games distracts the world from the government's actions and focuses on the world unifying events. Government efforts to divert the world into thinking of them more positively don't just stop at sports. Food has become another tactic used to improve a nation's reputation, or even just increase its prominence. The Vice article The surprising reason there are so many Thai restaurants in America explains that the ratio of Thai restaurants to Thai Americans is 10 times more the ratio of Mexican restaurants to Mexican Americans. And it isn't because we prefer pad Thai over tacos. The Thai government actually paid for this to happen with the tactic of gastro diplomacy by training chefs and even creating an instructional manual, very creatively titled, A Manual for Thai Chefs Going Abroad. The government sent more than 3,000 to the US to open new restaurants in hopes of creating a more favorable presence. And it worked. Thailand is one of the most favorably viewed countries in all of Asia, despite having a human rights record that we would normally condemn. Lastly, corporations are notorious for trying to bleach their brand image through campaigns and donations to causes, often ironically, ones that they contribute to. Take Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola donates money to studies that look to reduce microplastics and clean water initiatives. But when we actually open the Happy Can, we find that the company was the world's worst plastic polluter for the past 4 years, according to Reuters, using 3 million tons of plastic in its packaging each year and an incredibly high amount of water. And we thought Kendall Jenner's Pepsi ad was bad. Business Insider explains in the article the scam of reputation washing, that while these donations are beneficial, it allows a company to hide their messes. Brands and companies have also attempted to participate in greenwashing. British Petroleum is one of the many fossil fuel companies who are trying to market themselves more as environmentally friendly. The company is extremely visible on their very green website in their pride in investing in green energy initiatives. And while they may be proud of quadrupling their renewable pipelines or adding 5,000 electrical vehicle charging points, behind the scenes, the company continues to spend $7.5 billion a year on oil and gas projects, including directly supporting 8 lobbyist firms that lobby against green energy initiatives. And what is even more ironic, BP actually came up with the term carbon footprint in 2004 in a surprising strategic campaign that asked customers to reflect on their impact on the environment, shifting blame away from the company. And it was successful. Families, like mine, began to change their ways. We began to carpool to school every day, use reusable straws, or even looking into buying an electric car. But are individuals the primary culprit? Not as much as companies like BP would like us to think, when in fact 70% of the world's total carbon footprint is sourced from only 100 companies, including BP, meaning that our individual contributions really can't compare to what companies are doing, and yet they continue to blame us. Layla Ajar, a sociologist that specializes in sustainability studies, explains that when a company invests more green into being green, they receive praise and higher sales regardless of whether their initiatives are actually helping or not, displaying the theme of reputation washing as a whole, a way to shift narratives and often allow problems to continue to happen. After better understanding how reputation washing is used to sanitize self-image, cleanse country image, and bleach brand image, it is difficult to unsee how permissive our culture has become in being silent in regards to behaviors that have been washed clean. The implications of our look the other way mentality mean that in the future, the wealthiest will feel no repercussions for their actions because deep pockets can buy clean slates. Countries will believe that they will be loved for soccer, but only mildly disliked for human rights atrocities. And corporations will continue to destroy our environment while hiding behind eco-friendly brands that blame us. Efforts to remove deep and sometimes harmful stains are truly everywhere, even when trying to cover up the unsightly crumbs of a small donut-licking incident. I just hope Ariana, along with the rest of us, has learned a grande lesson.
Informative is a public address category, and as you can see, is the only category where visual aids are allowed.
Students research of their choice. Their topics may range from stadiums to urban gardening to fast fashion. Competitors use both 2- and 3-dimensional visual aids to help educate the audience.
Mailing letters is a vanishing art that brings us connections in life. A type of bond that is paper and ink, but with a message that can make a remarkable memory of who wrote to you. Just how my grandma mails me this one letter that belonged to her and my grandpa, just of the fact that it's a piece of paper that's a piece of them that now will belong with me to cherish. It was a lesson for me to do the same thing with others.
Thanks to COVID, we stopped receiving friendly touch. Now, this is concerning, as when we touch or hug, see tactile afferents located in our hands are activated, causing positive, pleasurable sensations and endorphins to flow into our brains, leading to trust, as well as social and emotional bonding.
Category up is poetry. In poetry, students perform one longer poem or many shorter poems woven together with particular emphasis on the written language.
Many Minnesota schools also compete in a national category called Program Oral Interpretation. In this event, students put together literature from 2 or more different genres around a central theme. Students are required to use a book, and utilizing the book as a prop or to emphasize points is encouraged.
In 2012, Pedro Reyes, an artist from Mexico City, convinced the government to donate guns to him, and he turned them into musical instruments. So somewhere, there's a tambourine, a drum set, a guitar, all made out of things that were once used to take people's lives. But now, they create a sound that brings life back into people's bodies. Which is to say, a weapon will always be a weapon, but we choose how we fight the war.
This poem is for the time you went to Subway, and when the man asked you if you wanted your sub fresh or toasted, you said yes. For that time you told the waitress to also enjoy her food, and the time you told the ticket taker to also enjoy his movie. This poem is for the people who are genuinely awkward.
It will rattle in the dark, and truth be told, my sadness is a sour bullet, a spiraling plume. It will not cease, it will not quieten. I'm afraid to die. I'm afraid to die.
When there's a language barrier between you and your immigrant mother, a certain intimacy is lost. Like once, I overheard my housemate explain to her mom the pros and cons of her IUD. I was awestruck. I wouldn't even have the vocabulary to broach that topic. Hey Mom, I had a no baby steak pudding.
Here with his reaction to Kanye West's unplanned speech last week is Pete Davidson.
Thank you. Thanks. So, speaking strictly for myself, what Kanye said after he went off the air last week?
I'm off the meds. This is the real me.
Was one of the most awkwardest things I've ever seen around here.
Successful discussants, like we four, have to be skilled at working together. The thing that makes the category of discussion so unique is that it requires teamwork between multiple people as opposed to the independence of a single person giving a speech.
Another category in speech that requires a large amount of teamwork is duo interpretation. Duo is the only category where with 2 competitors working together to tell a story, meaning you always have someone else to blame. Being in a duo presents many difficult requirements for competitors. Although they must work together to match each other's energies and seamlessly tell the story, they aren't allowed to make eye contact with or touch each other. Pieces may be taken from any piece of published literature, including novels, children's stories, poetry, plays, or even nonfiction.
And then I peed on him.
Exterminate us, please! Ah! A big white monster!
Release the raccoons.
What's a raccoon?
We're raccoons, you bully.
But I'm hungry and they were snack-sized.
Hello, Marty.
My.
Don't say anything. Oh, dear.
Come with me.
Hold on, I haven't reached this part yet.
Quickly, I'll keep you in the
Oh,
shower.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't say anything about a limping man in a ski mask.
That man in the tower is a very dangerous person.
Next, in our showcase, we have creative expression and humorous interpretation. Both categories typically involve multiple characters interacting in a story. The biggest difference between the categories is that humorous interpretation pieces are cut from any published play, novel, or children's story, while creative expression pieces are written entirely by the students themselves.
Creative and humor will be the last categories for tonight's showcase. Thank you all for making it out tonight. We really appreciate all of your support, and we hope to see you at our national showcase in May.
Guys, what is that? It's beautiful. No, really. Sam, what is that?
Oh, I don't know. Aside from the dead squirrel with wilted flowers stabbed into its carcass, I'm not sure.
I bet it was from those weird neighbor kids.
What weird neighbor kids?
Oh my god, they are so scary.
Their names are Ben and Carol.
This is unbelievable! How can he still call me a peasant? Yeah, it's insane. I've cleaned out the chamber pots. Those are just the toilets. I've cleaned the wizard's cauldron. That's just the deep fryer. And worst of all, I've received nothing short of a few coins. Dude, you are 33. And this is a Burger King.
Even though me and my grandma made promises to always be there for each other, she promised me the world, like she was my own mother. So I never found that she would die. We all grieved her, but I cried, why? Why did she leave me be? And why did she lie to me? Why did she promise she walked me down the aisle and to always make me smile?
Ladies and gentlemen, lock your doors on your loved ones. This is the 51st annual Evil Science Fair. Behold, immortality.
Sharks! Oh, there are sharks and they have come to eat us up. Ah! They're gonna eat me first because I'm so fat and juicy and have no bones.
You did it! After an incredibly thorough hiring process, you're finally here, the fake science laboratories. Who knew it'd be so hard to find a job as a beaker cleaner? The receptionist smiles and directs you to lab A348. And you can't tell, but think it's fate. 848 is your lucky number. Once inside, you know what to do. It's time to clean some beakers. So you pull out your favorite beaker sponge, Beatrum, and dump your hand in a vat of hydrogen peroxide. But you want your favorite cleaning agent, baking soda. Baking soda. Baking soda. So you call HQ with this request. Hey, then all of a sudden, a strange woman appears at the door. You're
accent. Your accent is so... What country are you from?
There is no time. You must become a scientist.
What about my beakers? What about Beatram? You realize you've arrived at a crossroads. What do? You do. Imagine a world in which James Corden's actually funny. A world where teachers get paid way too much. A world where the CIA did not shoot and kill John F. Kennedy. According to all known laws of quantum mechanics, parallel universes exist. Unfortunately for us, we live in this universe where our choices matter. The things we do or say can either help immensely or damage immeasurably. Knowing this, will you choose kindness? Or chaos? You're a Scientist by Phil Edwards. All right, I'm in, but I'm taking Beatram with me. Follow me. She continues down the hall, then turns the corner. Then the hall diverges into 5 distinct paths, all conveniently labeled for you. There's biologist, chemist, earth scientist, physicist, and space. I'm scared. I'm gonna clean beakers with Beatram.
No, you're not.
Beatram, give them back now!
I will. But first, you must become a scientist.
He chased her down the chemistry hallway. Oh, where'd she go? Ah!
So you're my new chemist. What are your qualifications?
Well, I walked down a hallway.
Wonderful. Let's have you do some experiments.
What do you mean? I'm just trying to find Beatram. Where is he?
Choose.
The first class reads explosive poison. Well, I guess that one.
Wonderful.
He also hands you a folder labeled baking soda. But you're quickly disappointed. Instead of being about baking soda, it's all about something called sodium bicarbonate. On the top, there's a cryptic note that reads NaHCO3. NaHCO3? CO3. Cothry? Who the heck is Cothry? And why is he trying to stop me from getting baking soda? You must be the one behind the baking soda conspiracy. And he'd do anything to keep me from getting baking soda, including kidnapping Beatram. You're just a humble beaker cleaner, but an answer could help you get Beatram's porous body back in your hands. Beatram, we have to save him. The board contains instructions on how to proceed. Oh, the following page has blank spaces for human testing. And it turns out that the lab has a well-stocked room filled with human test subjects who are eager to help. There's the elderly woman. Oh, the strapping young fellow. Oh, or the man whose eyes are as dark as a raven's feather. Oh. That one. Dark eyes. Oh, me. Dark eyes follows you to the lab testing room, then locks the door behind you. Where'd you get that key?
So you're the one I've heard about.
You know who I am?
I am Dr. Catherine.
I know where I recognize that name. It's written on your name tag. Sit down. Now, we are very, very
our cleaner needs baking soda. So then you ask for it, all our alarms went off. But you want your favorite cleaning agent, baking soda. You might have found out about everything the lab is doing. And they can't have someone like you learning all the lab secrets. But I wouldn't have learned anything if you had just told me. Then it's too late now, and there's only one thing we can do about that. Give me my sponge back, and a promotion, with as many K's as I want, not just 401. There's no use for you now. Or, your little sponge. Beatram, goodbye, little sponge. Beatram, no! All of a sudden, alarms go off. Beatram! Oh! Beatram! What do we do now, old chum? What about cleaning nice try? We're gonna teach you a lesson. No! I'm gonna follow my own passion. No! You're getting a demotion. You'll no longer be a scientist instead. You'll be a beaker cleaner. Oh, darn. And you'll never find out what country my action. Did you just kiss that sponge?